Oh, look at this. Sweet. Look at this, Gary. This is great, man.
Lucky if I can get it turn on. Yeah, you can highlight stuff too. You can change color. I don't know what this does.
If I was real clever, I would find some way to do it like bit by bit, and at the end it spells out not guilty.
Yeah, but
Like put one line at a time. I'm not going to know what to do. I don't have as much room to pace around.
Please be seated, folks. Mr. Malik, who is your next witness?
Lynn Skoglund, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's go ahead and bring our jury back in, please.
No, I'm not sure who that is. You want to do shoot fronts, or you don't want to do Jamie Bird after that?
Where was that? Usually it's Mr. Malik's, I thought.
No, it's been up there all day. I'm not sure who it
Might
is.
toss it down.
It's Lynn Skoglund. Skoglund?
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Malik, call your next witness, sir.
State would call Lynn Skoglund.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm going to ask you to do a couple things for me. That chair is bolted to the ground. Everybody tries to pull it forward and it won't move. But I do need you to lean into the microphone. It's not as effective as we would like. You may need to either sit forward or lean forward. When you're asked questions, if you can answer from memory, try and do that. If you need to refer to something, that's fine. Just identify what you're referring to. And if you would introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first name and your last name, please.
My name is Lynn, Lynn, last name Skoglund, Skoglund.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, where are you employed?
I'm employed by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement
And how long have you been with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
for about 9.5 years now.
Okay. And what's your current assignment with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
I am a crime laboratory analyst in the firearms section.
How long have you been a laboratory analyst in the firearms section?
I've been approximately 6 years. 3 years prior to becoming a crime laboratory analyst, I was a forensic technologist in the firearms section.
And can you talk a little bit about what kind of education you've had in that area?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in forensic science from the University of Central Florida. I also completed a 6-month training program with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in the area of firearm function. That was learning how various firearms operate and how to test fire those firearms safely. Once being promoted to a crime laboratory analyst, I was trained for approximately a year and a half in the area of firearm identification. That was the microscopic comparison of fired ammunition components, bullets and cartridge cases, and attempting to identify them back to a specific firearm. I have multiple courses with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. One of those was a serial number restoration course. The other was a firearm handling and prosecution course. I am a regular member of the Association of Firearm and Tool Mark Examiners, of which I have had the opportunity to go to their training seminars, their annual training seminars, and I've also attended the South Florida annual training discipline meetings.
Okay. Now, during the course of your employment as a firearms analyst with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, you have the opportunity to examine a number of firearms.
Yes.
Could you estimate how many firearms you've been asked to examine?
Hundreds, if not thousands.
Okay. And have you testified in court before in the area of firearms analysis?
Yes, I have.
How many times have you testified in court?
Approximately 30 to 40 times.
Okay. And have you been qualified as an expert in that area in the past?
Yes, I have.
And how many times?
Approximately 30 to 40 times.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, ma'am, you recall being asked to examine some firearms in reference to this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And specifically, did you end up preparing a report regarding your analysis of the firearms?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as exhibit number 21. I ask you to take a look at that. And do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the 9mm caliber semi-automatic pistol Springfield Armory pistol that I examined.
Okay, and again, that's a firearm you were asked to examine in this case?
Yes.
And what specifically did you do to examine that firearm?
I performed a standard firearm examination on this pistol, which included taking basic notations of the make, model, and serial number of the firearm, also examining it to determine that it was safe to test fire, and then I used laboratory stock ammunition to test fire the firearm in our laboratory.
Okay, and were you able to test fire that firearm?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and you have an opinion whether or not that firearm is operable or not?
Yes, it's functional.
Did you perform any other tests on that firearm?
No, I did not.
Were you asked to examine any other items?
Yes.
What other items were you asked to examine?
Along with this firearm, I had a second firearm that I examined. I also had a magazine that was submitted and approximately 25 9mm Luger caliber cartridges or live ammunition.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as exhibit number 22. I'm asking you to take a look at that. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the 9mm Luger caliber Taurus pistol that I examined.
And again, what, if any, tests did you perform on that item?
This also, I just performed a standard firearm examination to include test firing of this pistol.
And were you able to test fire that item?
Yes, I was.
And do you have an opinion on whether or not it's capable of expelling a projectile?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and just going back, you indicated there were some other items that you were asked to examine as well?
Yes.
And what were those items?
I had 2 pistol magazines that I used to test fire the pistols with, and also approximately 25 9mm Luger caliber cartridges or live ammunition.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as exhibit 23 this time. Was that an item you were asked to examine?
Yes, it was.
And what is that item?
It is one live 9mm Luger caliber cartridge.
Okay. And when you say live, what do you mean?
It's a cartridge which is a unit of unfired ammunition.
And did you perform any tests on that?
No, I just made general notations.
And I'm showing you, this is in evidence as Exhibit 24. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is also a single 9mm Luger caliber cartridge or live round.
Okay. And again, did you perform any tests on that?
No, I just made general notes on the item.
Again, you indicated it's a live round.
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Exhibit 25. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the package containing 16 9mm Luger caliber cartridges or live rounds.
And again, that was my next question. Were you able to determine if they were live rounds?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Exhibit 26. And again, is that an item you're asked to examine?
Yes, it is.
And what do you recognize that item to be?
This item contains a pistol magazine that would have been used to test fire one of the pistols, and it also contains 7 9mm Luger caliber cartridges or live rounds.
And again, those were live rounds as well.
Yes.
No further questions at this time.
Mr. Davis? Okay. Mr. Clark?
No question.
Do you need this witness to remain under subpoena?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am. Mr. Clark or Mr. Davis, do you wish her to remain under subpoena?
No.
Mr. Davis? No. Okay. Ma'am, you're free from the courthouse and you're released from subpoena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, Mr. Malik.
We'll recall Jamie Bird.
Okay. Jenny Bird, please. She's previously been sworn. Ma'am, would you tell us your name once again, please?
Jamie Bird.
And well, I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Please proceed, Mr. Altman.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bird.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to clear up a few items that you testified about this morning. I believe this morning you testified that you're the one that took Mr. Bernard into custody after he was lying outside the car on the street.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you searched him and took items out of his pockets.
Object, Judge. That's the meaning.
Sustained.
It's just matters that have previously been.
I understand, but let's go ahead with non-leading questions.
The items that you took out of his pockets, what did you do?
I placed them in a paper bag and put them on the front seat of my patrol car.
And then what did you do right after that?
I sat there at the residence waiting for further direction.
And you testified this morning, I think, that your memory wasn't perfect as to exactly what you took out of his pockets. Is that right?
Correct.
When you took the items out of his pockets, did you look at them at all, or did you just immediately put them into the paper bag?
I just immediately put them into the paper bag.
And that was for the purpose of then looking at them later. Is that right?
Object, Judge. This is direct.
It is, but that's a foundational question. Overruled.
What was the intention?
Objection, leading question. It's overruled foundational question.
What was your intention for putting the items in the paper bag?
They're to be collected to held for evidence or in property.
And there come a time later when you inventory what was in those items?
Yes, sir.
In that paper bag? All right. While you're sitting in the patrol car with the items in the paper bag, did something happen? Was there some phone call?
Yes, sir. A noise came from a cell phone that was in the paper bag, and I was asked by Officer Mullen to check and see if there was a message or something from a phone. He'd asked if I had received any kind of noise, and I checked it, and there was a message from him to me on the cell phone.
Now, when you say you were asked by Detective Barish, is that in person, or did he call you, or how did that?
No, it was Officer Mullen.
Officer Mullen?
Yes, sir.
Not Officer Barish.
Dewey Mullen.
So you get did Dewey Mullen speak to you personally, or did he call you, or how did that come?
It was either by radio or by my cell phone.
This is while you're in the patrol car with the paper bag sitting next to you?
Yes, sir.
So you get either on radio or on your personal cell phone request from Detective Mullen
Officer Mullen, yes, sir.
to request his what?
Did I hear any kind of noise? Is there a phone message for me? Look around.
And you said you had heard some noise?
Yes, from the paper bag.
What did you do there?
I looked at the face of the cell phone. It was an iPhone, and it was a message to me from him.
And that was the same cell phone that you took out of Mr.
Yes, sir.
Now let's. You also testified this morning, I believe, about filling out a property form.
Yes, sir.
And I believe that's been marked as State's Exhibit A-L.
Thank you.
And by the way, before we move on to that, the message that you got from Officer Mullen, it's on the cell phone, was shown in this photograph. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You testified about that.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you get back to the police station, is that when you begin inventorying the items?
Yes, sir.
And I believe you testified this morning that, you just going by memory, you may not remember exactly what those items were.
Correct.
Did you prepare a report at the time so that you wouldn't have to rely on your memory?
Yes, and that's the evidence report.
And that's that exhibit, what is it, H that you're looking at now, right?
A1 or AL? I'm sorry, I can't read it. Was it AL?
Okay, and that's this report that you prepared so that you wouldn't have to rely on your memory.
Yes, sir.
And I believe there was some testimony this morning about different handwriting on this report. Could you explain how that came about?
Yes, sir. As I had said earlier, Detective Barish, who is now Sergeant Barish, assisted and sat with me while I was categorizing all of the property because there's currency involved, and it's required for 2 officers to be present when there's money involved. So he sat next to me, and we both packaged the property and evidence.
Are these the items that were in the paper bag?
Yes, sir.
And did you divide it up and report it in some fashion?
Yes, sir. It's categorized by items.
Okay. And were you personally the one that wrote all these items down, or did Detective Barish help you do that?
He helped me on the last 2 columns.
Did you confirm yourself that what he wrote down was accurate?
Yes, sir.
And did you then sign the bottom of the form when you had confirmed by yourself that you had correctly cataloged everything that was taken out of Mr. Bernard's pockets?
Yes, sir, in 3 places.
All right. And what were those items that were taken out of Mr. Bernard's pockets? You mentioned the cell phone.
The cell phone is one of them. The currency, which we had discussed, was $176.
And did you record the number of bills that those $76 were?
Yes, sir, 43 bills.
47 bills.
Yes, sir.
And what else?
And then there were also, there's a wallet, keys, a watch, and then there were also, from what I understood, cards inside the wallet, if you wanted to look at it from all collectively.
And I know you testified this morning about the specific wallet and the cards. Do you remember those cards? Do you remember looking at the cards while it was in the wallet that you were taking out of Mr. Pocket?
Yes, sir.
And what were those cards?
There were miscellaneous credit cards, but there was an identification card as well, if I remember correctly.
These were the photographs that you looked at showing these are the cards that we're speaking about. This is the wallet.
Yes, sir.
Cards belonging to Brianna Campos.
Yes, sir.
And you remember looking at those, that those were the cards that were in the wallet that was in Mr. Bernard's pocket.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Clark?
You testified this morning, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you talked to Mr. Altman, right?
Yes, sir.
State attorney?
Yes, sir.
Who just questioned you?
Yes, sir.
Right. And you now remember that, unlike this morning, not only did you get money and a phone, but you also got a wallet, keys, a watch, and it looks like another wallet, right? It's actually two wallets?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Okay. Yes, sir.
And you said the only items you were involved with was the money and the phone.
She can answer. Overruled.
I don't remember saying that exactly. I'm sorry.
All right. And you were given the opportunity to describe everything that you did, right? The state
Yes, sir.
attorney, the other state attorney who's not here right now, asked you lots of questions about what you did.
Yes, sir.
And when you were unable to remember things, you were able to look at that form to try to refresh your memory.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, what you told us was that you remembered the money and the cell phone.
Yes.
And then you talked to Mr. Altman, the other state attorney, right?
Yes, sir.
And now you've come testify that you retrieved a wallet, right?
Yes, sir.
And if you look at the report, there are also keys, right?
Yes, sir.
Another wallet
Yes, sir.
and a watch.
Yes, sir.
And not only that, but that you remember looking at all those things.
Yes, sir. In order to put them into evidence, I would have had to have looked at them and touched them.
Right, you remember that now,
Yes, sir.
this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
after
Even
talking
earlier
to Mr.
today,
Altman.
by looking at my report,
I have no further questions, Judge.
Thank you. Redirect.
What is the purpose of your report?
in order to have a detailed documentation of every specific thing, that's why we use our reports. So we would be able to refer to them even in such a long period of time later on. That was on May the 9th, 2012.
That's the same day these events happened.
Yes, sir.
The purpose for
That's right.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Clark? You may. Mr. Altman, any other testimony?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. May this witness be excused?
Subject to recall.
Okay. Ma'am, you're under subpoena. You remain under subpoena, but we're going to let you go at this point. You may leave the courthouse. Thank you. Call your next witness. I'm not sure whether to look at Mr. Malik or Mr. Altman, so I don't know where to look here.
Call Diane McConaughey.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. Appreciate that. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor or two. Lean into that microphone. The chair does not move, so you do need to either scoot forward or lean into it. I see you brought some papers with you. If you can answer from memory, do that. If you need to refer to something, feel free to do it, but let the attorneys know what you're looking at. And I'd like you to introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first name and especially your last name for us, if you would.
That's Diane McConaughey, DianneMcConaghy.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
I'm a senior crime laboratory analyst with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Your Honor, excuse me, I would ask my colleague from the state to, if he could wear the mic.
Either stay at the microphone or there's a remote mic there. Mr. Malik has become pretty good at hooking that up, so there's another one in the drawer, I think, if you want to just pull that drawer out.
Thank you so much, and thank you, counsel.
Use this, or?
Yep. No, there should be a separate microphone there.
It's a
Mr. Malik, can you give him
lavalier mic.
Put it way up on your tie, Mr. Allman, up to the neck, close to the neck.
Oh, okay, I didn't notice it there, sorry. Yeah, I don't know if you want this one. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is that good? Okay. And you were telling us where you were employed.
I'm a senior crime laboratory analyst with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement at the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center in the Impression Evidence section
And where is that office located?
in Tampa.
What are your official duties?
I examine items of evidence that are submitted to the laboratory for the presence of footwear impressions. If impressions are noted, I then compare them to the submitted shoes, issue written reports, and testify in court as needed.
What kind of training and experience have you had to do that kind of work?
I successfully completed a standardized training program with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It's a two-phase training program where the first phase is the academic portion, which consists of article and book reading, practical exercises, oral examinations, and phase two is what's called supervised casework, where I would work a case completely through, and then another qualified analyst would rework the case to make sure I use the proper skills, techniques, and abilities. I'm a member of several forensic organizations, and I have a bachelor's degree in criminology.
Have you ever testified as an expert in court in the area of footwear examinations?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
35 times throughout the state of Florida.
What do you mean when you refer to footwear? What is that?
I'm referring to any type of shoe, sandal, boot.
And what is a footwear impression?
It's the reproduction of the bottom of the shoe when it comes in contact with the surface.
And how are footwear impressions left on a surface?
When the bottom of the shoe comes in contact with the surface, there can be a transfer of residue either from the shoe to that surface or from the surface to the bottom of the shoe, or it can be impressed in a soft substance like dirt or sand, and it will leave a reproduction of the portion that made contact.
And when a footwear impression is left, is it always a perfect impression, or are they sometimes smudged and incomplete and so forth?
Correct.
That's correct. They would be often just little
There are a lot
portions.
of variances in the type of footwear impressions and the quality that can be left.
What are class characteristics?
Class characteristics are the characteristics that are made in the manufacturing process, like the physical size and the design, and it's repeated in more than one shoe as they're manufactured.
What are individual characteristics?
Individual characteristics are the random recordings of nicks or cuts as the shoe is worn, and it'll make the bottom of that shoe unique and identifiable.
And how do you compare footwear?
By noting the individual and class characteristics and seeing how they're recorded in both the known shoe and the seen impression.
Now, in this case, let me show you State's Exhibits 11 and 12 that have been entered into evidence and ask you if you have examined these items. These are described as shoes belonging to Bessman Okafor, number 11, and Nolan Bernard, number 12.
Yes, I recognize them.
And did you also receive a number of images and gel prints and so forth of footwear impressions that you were told were taken from a crime scene?
Yes, I did.
And specifically, it's going to take me a while to find it. Let's see. I could just have a moment here.
Yes, sir.
Is this the one that you identified? I know there was one she didn't identify. Who's with me? Let me see. So this isn't big, is it? This is Q. Okay. Let me show you what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 29, which has been described as a CD or DVD containing photographs of shoe prints.
Did you examine that?
Yes, I did.
And did you make an effort to compare the shoe prints in the photographs to the shoes that you examined as States Exhibits 11 and 12?
Yes.
And what were the results of that examination?
That there were footwear impressions that shared similar design features with these shoes in Exhibit K1, and a footwear impression share similar design features with these shoes in Exhibit K2.
Now, when you say K1 and K2, those are different numbers than we've just been talking about. You know when you say K1, what are you referring to?
That's the exhibit number that it was designated by the agency when it was submitted to my laboratory.
Okay, and how would you describe K1?
K1 is a pair of blue, white, and yellow Asics shoes.
So let me show you what's been entered into evidence as States Exhibit 12 and ask you if this is the item that you've been talking about as K1.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and this is described as the shoes from Mr. Bernard.
Okay.
Okay. So when items are given to you to examine, I mean, they haven't been entered into court yet, so they have a different identification number.
Correct.
So you know these Asics shoes as K1.
Correct.
Okay. And the other pair of shoes, which are the Nike Zoom shoes, described as having been taken from Mr. Okafor, which are entered into court as State Exhibit 11. You know this as K2, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So K1 are the Asics shoes, K2 are the Nike Zoom shoes, is that right?
Correct.
And what then is the result of your examination as to the Asics shoes?
That there were footwear impressions that shared similar design features with, I believe it was K1 or K2. There were multiple. And there was one footwear impression that shared similar design features with the exhibit in K1.
All right. And again, so we're not confused, K1 is the Asics shoes. There was one image of a footwear impression that shared design features with that shoe.
Correct.
And the K2 Nike Zoom shoes.
There were multiple impressions that shared similar design features.
All right. Now, were these impressions or your examination, is there a way to try to show to the jury what you did and what you're talking about?
I prepared a court demonstration just to show you what I examined in the laboratory and to show you some of the things that I looked at.
Are these always easy to see by a layman, or do you need special training or special equipment to do this?
You definitely need special training to differentiate between footwear impressions, but I also looked at these under magnification.
All right, so under some sort of microscope or something?
Yes.
Okay, so we've done our best to do something we can show in court.
Correct.
All right, let me show you States Exhibits. States Exhibit A, I'm sorry, AN. Ask if you can tell us what this is.
This is one of the images that was on the CD that I received from the agency that I enlarged to natural size using the scale that's in the photograph.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'd like to be able to see the image.
If you would, share with
Thank
both
you.
counsel. Mr. Altman, are these multiple photographs under one number, AN?
No, they're separate numbers.
Okay. Can you just dictate those numbers for us?
Yes, there's A, N, A, Q, A, P. I'm sorry, I should probably put them in a different order. There's A, O, A, P, I'm sorry, let me start from the beginning. A, N, A, O, A, P, and A, Q. I think that's in alphabetical order.
Thank you.
Okay. And let me show you what's been marked as A, N for identification. Ask if you can tell us what this is.
This is one of the images that was on the CD that was submitted to the lab. And I enlarged,
Let's not show it to the jury yet.
Sorry.
Just tell us what it is, please.
and it's enlarged using the scale that's in the photograph.
Next is A, O.
It's another image that was on the CD that I received, and again, enlarged to natural size using the scale in the photo.
A, P.
Is a demonstration of the items that I looked at, which includes the same image that I just discussed, a photograph of the bottom of the shoes that were submitted, and then an enlarged area from that photo and an enlarged area of the test impression I used for my comparison.
And States Exhibit AQ.
It contains the other image that I just discussed, a photograph of the other pair of shoes, the bottoms of them, and then two areas that were enlarged to show the image from the image and my test impression.
This time I'd offer into evidence States Exhibits A, N, O, P, and Q.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Clark? I'm sorry? All right. They'll be admitted as the next four numbered exhibits. If you could announce those, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. AN will be number 30, AO 31, AP 32, AQ 33.
Thank you.
And I would like to publish these to the jury, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right, this is Exhibit 30. I don't know if it's going to fit on here, but
I'm not sure it is.
I think we're going to need to okay. Zoom out.
And can you see any, hard to see with the naked eye, can you see any shoe print impression on this photograph?
Yes, there are multiple.
And I think we have a way of having you draw on here. Yeah, I believe if you want to draw with your finger, you can show us what it is you're looking at.
That's one of the footwear impressions that shares similar design features.
Okay, is there anything else on this particular photograph? Or is that
Where the red asterisks are locations of other footwear impressions.
and could you circle those, or one of them? Well, those are the X marks, but...
Correct.
Okay.
There's footwear impressions located throughout this area.
Okay. All right, I think that's about the best I can do, but that's kind of a blow-up of one of the footwear impressions,
Yes,
and that's this item in the top left-hand corner.
correct.
And how
That's
would you
designated
describe
with
that?
the blue asterisks.
How would you describe that image?
It has a design feature that we call herringbone or a zigzag pattern.
All right. Let me show you State's Exhibit 31. And sorry about the reflection, but what is this item?
Can I mark the photo?
Sure. Well, let me do it so that you can mark the photo. Okay.
This area, again, has a zigzag pattern that's similar to one of the pairs of shoes. It's designated by the blue asterisks. And
Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
this area, designated by the green asterisks, is the other footwear impressions that is similar in design to the other pair of shoes.
Okay. Now, you described in the earlier exhibit, Exhibit 30, some sort of herringbone pattern.
Correct.
And what about, what do you see in this, what I'm pointing at here, in this footwear impression?
This also contains the area of herringbone or zigzag.
Okay, and this one over here?
It has a couple of elements. One looks like a backwards Y or a boomerang separated by a void, and then another solid bar, and then another void.
Now, the one over here that I'm pointing to on the left-hand side near the number 6 or 9, whatever it is, does that, you describe that as having a herringbone pattern?
Correct.
And would that be similar to the pattern we saw in the earlier photograph?
Correct.
And this one down in the bottom right-hand corner, you describe as having a backwards Y or something else?
A backwards Y or a boomerang and solid bars.
Okay. Does that appear to be a different design feature?
Correct. It goes with the other pair of shoes.
Okay. And you tried to present some side-by-side photographs that perhaps we might be able to look at. Let me clear this off first. And this is State's Exhibit 32. What are we looking at here?
This is a summary of the comparison that I did. The photograph on the left is a photograph at the bottom of the shoes in Exhibit K1, which
Now,
are the-
K1, just so we're clear, that's the ASICS
ASICS.
shoes. Okay.
Correct. And then the photograph on the right is a smaller image of the same one that we just discussed.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about a backwards Y or boomerang pattern. Do you see that on the bottom of the shoes of K1, which are the ASICS shoes?
Yes.
And could you point them out to us? Let me make it so that you can do that.
They're located in the toe area here, there, and in a similar position on the other shoe.
And that's what you described as a backwards Y or boomerang?
Correct.
Okay. And do you see that? Now, it's difficult to see on the photograph on the right, and I think you even tried to blow it up. It still seems difficult to see. What do you see there?
Correct. In the image on the right, it appears in a white coloring, and I inverted the color to try and enhance the contrast just for demonstration, which
Can you
is
explain that? Why invert the colors?
my test impression that is in the center bottom is a black impression. So to try and keep it in the same coloring so your eyes don't play tricks on you, I put the other impression in the same color.
So when you take a test impression, is that going to be in the reverse color of the actual shoe, or?
It depends on how the impression is left.
Okay. And when you talk about the test impression, are you talking about what I'm circling now?
Correct.
All right. And I'm sorry, go on and.
The test impression is made by placing a thin layer of black ink on the bottom of the shoe and then taking a clear sticky acetate, placing it on the bottom of the shoe, and it'll give me a reproduction of all the features on the bottom. The top center is just an enlarged area that's right at the corner of that scale, and I rotated it to try and put it in the same position to demonstrate. The backwards Y is actually in the top portion here. It's followed by a white void and then another black bar here, and then another white void and another black bar here. And in the test impression, it's the backwards Y or boomerang followed by the void, and a black bar followed by another void, and then another black bar.
And those are the similar design features you talked about with the shoe print impression left at the scene and K1, which are the ASICS shoes, which are also entered into evidence as States Exhibit 12, which are the shoes taken from Mr. Bernard.
Correct.
Do you see anything inconsistent with any of these shoe impressions from this shoe impression we've discussed with the shoes worn by Mr. Bernard?
No, I don't.
Let's go to Exhibit 31. Clear this off. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to show 31. Let me show 33, I'm sorry. And what is 33?
The photograph on the left is the same photograph that we discussed earlier that was on the agency CD. Photograph on the right is a photograph of the bottom of the shoes that was taken in the laboratory. The photograph on the center bottom is an enlarged area from the photograph on the left. And the photograph on the top center is an area of the test impression that I made using the shoes on the right.
And again, and these are the shoes that you spoke about as being K2, which are the Nike Zoom shoes, which are States Exhibit 11, which are described as the shoes worn by Mr. Okafor. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And I don't know if zooming in is going to do any good, but let me try that.
So this image here on the bottom that I'm circling, that's a magnification of the actual shoe print. Is that right?
Correct, which is located in the image to the left.
Let me. Is that right?
Correct.
And this is from this same shoe. Is that right?
Correct.
So you can compare the shoe print with the shoe print impression that you made with the shoe print impression found at the scene.
Correct.
And what can you tell us about the comparison? Let me. And if you want to draw on this, go right ahead.
Photograph on the bottom, again, contains the zigzag pattern, which is similar to the zigzag pattern that is located in my test impression, and it's located on the outer portions of both shoes.
And when you say on the outer portions of both shoes, I don't know if, let me back this up a little bit. Let me clear this. When you say on the outer portion of the shoes, what are you referring to?
On the lateral or the outside toe area on both shoes. There's one on this side and on the other side of the other shoe.
Okay. And there's a kind of a line going down the middle.
Correct.
And does that also correspond with the actual shoe?
I don't
Well,
see
I guess
that.
you took it from the...
Yeah, I don't see that in the question
I'm
impression
sorry.
from the scene.
And is there anything inconsistent with the shoe print impression left at the scene that you analyzed with these Nike Zoom shoes?
No, there isn't.
I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Davis, cross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The correct pronunciation is Ms. McConaughey?
McConaughey.
McConaughey?
McConaughey.
Okay, I apologize for that. I'll get it right. Miss, should it be Ms. or Analyst McConaughey? What we've just witnessed by my colleague from the state and his demonstration of your work, would it be safe to say for lack of better terms, the lay eye, it's pretty difficult to make that out. Would you agree?
With these impressions, yes.
And would I be mistaken to say that it's kind of hard to see?
I wouldn't say hard to see. I would just say it takes more concentration to look for what I described.
So you agree that it's hard to make the distinctions for, again, the untrained eye?
I would say one impression is more difficult to locate because of the coloring that
Your
it's
Honor,
in.
I would ask the witness to please say yes or no, and she'd be rehabilitated by the state if need be.
If you can answer yes or no, please do so.
Can you
If
repeat the
can't,
question?
Just tell him that.
Yes, I believe my question was, it is difficult for the eye to see.
I wouldn't say difficult, no.
It is difficult for the lay eye to make distinctions.
On first glance, yes, but with concentration, no.
Again, Your Honor.
I think she answered your question.
Thank you. Analyst McConaughey, Do you recall, well, before I go there, you, again, work for the FDLE, correct?
Correct.
And your office is down in Tampa at the Regional Operations Center, correct?
Correct.
And tell the jury how it works. I mean, the Orange County Sheriff's Office sends you these impressions, correct?
They don't send them directly to me, no.
They send them to your office.
They submitted to the Orlando Regional Operations Center, and then they were transferred to Tampa.
Okay. And once they get to Tampa, you do your analysis, correct?
Yes.
And part of your analysis is preparing a report.
Yes.
And then you send the report back to Orange County. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in particular, this report you sent back to Orange County at the Sheriff's Office, attention for CSI Jenny Welch, correct?
Yes.
And you do recall that you did a report, correct?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall that your report, your laboratory report, was from October 30th, 2012?
Yes.
And to know about further details in the report, would it be fair to say you would need a copy of the report to review to refresh your memory? Or
No.
in other words, you know the report pretty well?
I know my conclusions in the report, yes.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I know the conclusions that are
Okay.
in my report, yes.
All right. So in terms of the K2 pair of shoes, can you tell the jury again what the K2 pair of shoes are?
The K2 pair of shoes were the Nike Zoom shoes.
And in that report, do you recall your notes concerning the lack of sufficient detail?
Yes.
And in those notes, isn't it true that you said a more conclusive association was not made?
That's correct.
And further in that report, do you recall that your opinion meant that although there are some similarities noted, that there were significant limiting factors?
Correct.
And as a result, do you recall those specific, I should say, those significant limiting factors don't permit a specific association between the impressions and the known shoes?
I believe it states a more specific association.
So that we are not, you have a copy of your report there, ma'am?
Correct. It does not say more specific.
Okay, you see page 2 of 2?
Yes.
Can you review that and then tell us what the last sentence of paragraph 3 says for the jury?
This opinion means that some similarities are noted. However, there are significant limiting factors in the question impressions that do not permit a specific association between the question impressions and known shoes.
In your world, Analyst McConaughey, I apologize. Does that mean that your results are inconclusive?
No. It means that there's limiting factors. We have several levels of conclusions that we can reach, and depending on the impression and the quality and what characteristics are present, allows us to reach those certain levels.
But it is not, for lack of better terms, a 100% match. Is that correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clark?
Afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
Let me give him back his notes. All right. So basically what happens is a crime scene tech goes out there, takes pictures, takes impressions or whatever, and then sends it to you
Correct.
to get your opinion.
Correct.
And that's what I guess CST Welch did in this case, right?
Yes.
She actually sent you 6 gel lifts, right?
Yes.
So she actually went in at the scene, looked around, looked for what appeared to be impressions of shoes, and then made lifts of those to send to you.
Objection calls for speculation by this witness. This is not within her area of knowledge.
Overrule. If she can answer, if she knows, she can answer. If not, she just can say so.
I can say that these impressions were powdered because of my crime scene experience, but I have no firsthand knowledge of where these were collected from.
Okay, so that would be something she would have told us about then, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you get these lifts though, right?
Correct.
These aren't photographs. These are like specific. They're not just general photographs like we see in the exhibits that just came in evidence. These are specific prints that she found.
I received both the gelatin lifters and a CD with both examination quality photographs on them.
Right, I know. I'm just talking about the lifts right now. I'm going to get to the CD in a minute.
Yes,
Okay.
I received 6 gelatin lifts as
Okay.
well.
And you examined those and compared them to K1 and K2, these 2 pairs of shoes, right?
Correct.
And you didn't make any associations between those shoes and those Q1 through 6.
No, I did not.
All right. So basically what that means is there were 6 lifts of shoe prints that were sent to you from this case, from this scene, and none of those 6 were related to those shoes.
Correct.
You can conclusively say that.
Yes.
Those prints weren't made by those shoes.
Correct.
Okay. And then what you also got is a CD of photographs, right?
Correct.
So basically, she's there with the digital camera, I guess, some kind of digital camera, right? These aren't like old-fashioned developed photographs. These are digital photographs.
Correct.
And then basically what you do is look at them, and you concentrate, and you look to see if you can find some kind of a match, right?
I examine the entire frame to see whatever footwear impressions are present and examine all of the images.
Right. And then you go back and you say, do these match up with these shoes that I've got?
Correct.
That's kind of the whole point, right? They send you shoes and say, do these shoes match these prints?
Correct.
So that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Okay. And when you did that, you found several instances in these photographs where the shoes, I guess it was it K2? The Nikes? That's K2, right? Yeah.
Correct.
You found several instances where an impression had similar characteristics to those shoes.
Correct.
And then there was one occasion where you say it was similar to K1.
Correct.
So out of all the pictures that you looked at in these 6 lifts, there was one time that you say that it was similar, right?
Correct.
And that was... I'm not really sure how to use this. Oh, here we go, hot dog. All right, that's this here, right?
Correct.
This is what we're looking at.
That's the enlarged image, yes.
Okay. And it's enlarged from this, right?
Correct.
So this is, and it looks like it's from this, it's in here, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of tucked in the corner of this picture, right?
Correct.
And that's the only picture that you found where you had, I guess this is probably the best picture you had of this right here, right?
Correct. That is the best image.
So by concentrating, we should be able to see the same thing that you do, right?
Correct.
All right. Were you given any other shoes besides these 2 to compare to?
Yes, I was.
What was that?
I was given a pair of black Nike sandals.
All right. Were you given any other sneakers?
No,
Given any Reeboks by any chance?
no,
You have no idea why I asked that question, do you?
no.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Altman?
How long can shoe prints be left at a particular location?
Generally, they cannot be dated.
So they could theoretically be years old, a shoe print, if it hasn't been cleaned or wiped off or stepped on or whatever?
Correct.
Okay. So some of these shoe prints that you examined, you don't know how long, or do you know how long they were there?
No, I don't.
And is it possible that some of these shoe prints were there for a very long time?
It's possible.
And is it possible that some of them were left by the people that lived in that house?
It's possible.
So that if there are shoe prints that don't match, there's no way of knowing when they were there.
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question that in response to something.
I'll let you, go ahead.
You just asked about the other people in the house, what they may have left prints, obviously, right?
Correct.
Okay. Were you given any shoes from any of the people who lived there to compare to?
No, I was not.
So we have no way of knowing whether or not those shoes could have left these exact same prints you're talking about.
I have no knowledge of that.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Would you like this witness to remain under subpoena, Mr. Altman?
I don't think it's necessary. No.
Okay. Mr. Davis, does she need to remain under subpoena?
Yes.
You want her to stay under subpoena? Okay. Ma'am, we're going to go ahead and release you from the courthouse. You remain under subpoena, subject to recall in this matter. Okay? Thank you. How long will your next witness be?
I think pretty short.
Pretty short? Okay, let's do that. Then I'll give the jury a very brief recess. Who is your next witness?
Sean Johnson.
Sir, thank you for joining us. I'm going to ask you to lean into that microphone a little bit. It's not as sensitive as we would like, and that chair is bolted to the ground. You can't pull it forward. Everybody does that. If you'd introduce yourself to the jury, spell your first name and your last name, please.
Sean Michael Johnson. It's S-H-A-W-N and J-O-H-N-S-O-N.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in the Orlando Regional Operations Center in the biology section.
How long have you been there?
A little over 16 and a half years.
And what are your duties as a crime laboratory analyst in the biology section at the FDLE?
My primary duty is to examine items of evidence from various crime scenes and try to identify any body fluid stains, such as blood, semen, or saliva. Once I identify those body fluid stains, I then perform DNA analysis and try to determine a possible contributor of those body fluid stains.
You mentioned DNA. What is that?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the material that controls the development and function of an organism. It's what makes up our genetic blueprint. We get half of our DNA from our mother and half from our father. And actually, from person to person, DNA is approximately 99.9% the same. It's this large portion of DNA that makes us human beings. It gives us 2 arms, 2 legs, the ability to communicate and stand upright. 0.1% is different. Obviously, that's what we see, the differences in people from hair color, eye color, height, and weight. Within that 0.1%, what I'm looking at are 15 areas of the DNA that differ from person to person by the length of DNA at these 15 areas. And these lengths of DNA make up a person's DNA profile. And then once I obtain a DNA profile, I then can compare DNA profiles from one person to another.
And you mentioned, is DNA present throughout the body?
Yes,
And it's the same throughout the body, is that right?
it is. It is.
And you mentioned about body fluids like blood and saliva and semen and so forth. Are those good carriers of, is it easy to find DNA in those, in body fluids?
If I'm able to identify the body fluid stains, I typically can get a DNA result from the body fluid stains.
What if somebody just touches something? Would they always leave some DNA behind that you can examine?
And no, not always. Typically, touch DNA is it's different from person to person because each individual will shed their skin cells at a different rate. And it depends also on the part of the body. For example, I don't usually wear a necktie. And so if you would swab the shirt, if I would swab the shirt after I take the shirt off, I'd have a lot of skin cells on my shirt or on my neck because I don't usually wear one and the skin cells are going to come off. But myself and other people, we all use our hands a lot. And so we don't have a lot of skin cells that we shed on our hands. So, for example, if I would touch the bench right here and then swab it, I necessarily wouldn't expect to find my DNA profile there. But if I would lick my hand and touch it, then I would expect to find my DNA profile.
So would it be true that it's not uncommon somebody can touch something, hold something, whatever, and there wouldn't be any DNA that at least you could find?
Right. There would be DNA. You're going to transfer DNA, but not necessarily enough to get DNA results from.
Now, without going through everything, you examined, you were given buccal swabs from various people, and you were able to obtain DNA profiles from those buccal swabs, is that right?
Yes. Buccal swab is a swab from inside of the cheek of an individual.
So that's the purpose of a buccal swab is to actually get DNA.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you also examined various items of evidence. I'm not going to go through them all, but you examined a great many items of evidence in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
And were you able to determine, to find any DNA on any of these items of evidence?
Nothing that would be interpretable other than on two items of evidence I was able to just determine that males, at least one male was present.
And how are you able to determine that it's a male as opposed to a female?
In addition to the 15 areas of the DNA that I look at, I also look at an area referred to as amylogenin. When it's just the sexing marker, it comes out as either male or female.
But beyond that, for all of the items that you examined, and you examined a great many items in this case, is that right?
That's correct.
And you were, beyond saying that a couple of them were male, beyond that you were not able to get any DNA, interpretable DNA profile from any of the items, is that right?
No, I was not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Clark? Okay. May this witness be excused? State?
Yes, Your Honor.
You need to remain under subpoena.
I suppose, but yes.
Okay, sir, you remain under subpoena, but you're free to leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Free to leave the courthouse. Let me give the jury a short break at this point. Folks, just about a 5-minute recess, and then we'll finish up tonight at 5 o'clock. Please do not discuss the case. Leave your pads on your chairs. Julie, you don't need to take a break?